have their guys that they're going to talk about and they want you to pay attention to, but there are guys that, like, you know, whether they're in smaller markets or their game isn't exactly, you know, pretty, that they don't pay attention to. So there's certain guys that, you know, I don't think get enough attention. And I think, you know, if you're a big basketball fan, you know, like I know we are, you have to be on the lookout for not just, you know, their box scores. Yeah, whatever they do in the stat sheet's great, but you got to watch their games. And then there's certain guys who I'm telling you, like, just, I'm out on them. There's
You're
certain
out.
guys. Yeah, I mean, I understand why people are in, but just from my perspective and what because on my way here, I was thinking about, you know, like the recipe for winning over the last, say, 10 years since the NBA has kind of like transitioned to what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is like a mold for how to, like, you know, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You need spacing. And I know you talked about this with Dom a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
But then there's certain guys that just don't fit that mold, I guess. And then I also wanted to just talk about, you know, it's football season.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to touch on a little football. But I'm a basketball guy at the end of the day.
So, with that in mind, I think that's a good little soliloquy for like how we're going to start the episode. Yep. So I guess I'm just gonna leave that and just start here and just say, like, welcome everybody to episode 3 of the sports show. They've been replaced again. No D Simone today. No Figgy today. I got a real brain here with me. Excited to talk some hoops.
I can't wait.
And I think we'll start with exactly what you were saying. I want to know who is the player you have in mind when you're talking about guys that maybe don't contribute to modern winning basketball.
Don't contribute?
Yeah. Who's the guy you're thinking of? Because there's passion behind those words.
Yeah. So it's back to what I was saying about, you know, the media paying too much attention to guys, and it's more like comparing them to guys that I think don't get enough attention.
Okay.
So
all right.
This is the first one. This is not necessarily the one that comes to mind, but when you're comparing to another, you know, similar mold of player, I think the way the media is throwing Wemby in your face is like, I think it's too soon, because if you look at him, I mean, just look at the guy. He's 7'4", he's got a 8-foot wingspan, he can do it all. But if you actually watch the way he plays basketball, he almost doesn't know what he's doing.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I see what you're saying. So, and especially with how I see how you're kind of looping that in with the modern NBA.
Yeah. So last night, you know, so I bet on the Rockets last night. So obviously I'm sweating out the game. It was a close game. They were favored by 2.5. So I bet the spread. Of course, have to make it close. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
So I'm watching the game. I think the Spurs were down by 4. I think it was 101-97. You know, they have a transition, maybe like a 4-on-3 or something. Wemby takes a 3 from like 5 feet behind the line with like 2 minutes left. It's like, dude, you're 7'4". It's like, I respect it. If it's in rhythm, go ahead, take as many threes as you want. But it's like, he almost doesn't understand situationally what he's doing. And I'm worried that is going to hold him back because obviously his potential is through the fucking roof. The guy he's 7'4", he can guard every position, he can handle, he can shoot. My bad.
That's your bedtime.
No, I gotta do some shit, but it's fine.
So he has potential. That's like obviously
that's the thing. Like, we've never, you know, people have seen like for the longest time. Every time there's a new guy coming in, oh, we've never seen this before. We've never seen this before. I don't want to hear it anymore, because I was looking at his splits yesterday. He's shooting 43% from the field. He's shooting 22 from 3.
Yeah,
it's like. And the reason I'm saying he's getting too much attention is because no one talks about Chet Holmgren.
Fact, dude. Because Chet's
unbelievable.
He's like a niche version of Wemby.
Well,
you know?
So what Chet has doesn't necessarily jump off the page. Like, he's like Wemby if you shrunk him by like 3 inches. But the thing is Chet, you watch him play and he understands basketball.
Yeah,
he gets it. You can play in a winning system. He knows what it takes. He knows where he's supposed to be on the court at all times. And I just don't, like, I understand there's certain guys that, like, the media wants you to pay attention to. But, like, I mean, and I hardly carry any value in this, but I think it was, like, the top 50 or top 100 players, you know, by the end of for the 24-25 season just came out. They had Wemby at, like, 11. I was like, dude, his team just won 17 games.
Yeah, he's not quite at the point he would need to be at in order to play the way he plays.
Well, because then if you think about it, Chet, technically a rookie last year, missed his whole official rookie season. He was on the first seed in the West, and that team is not a 1 seed without him. Granted, they have SGA, who's, I'll talk, I could talk about SGA for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. He's unbelievable. But back to Chet, like, that team's not a 1 seed without him.
So, but do you think, imagine...
that team with Victor?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you swapped out Chet for Victor...
I think they're worse. I think maybe they have some games where they put up more points, or maybe he has more, like, ridiculous stat lines. But I think when it comes down to, like, situational basketball, I'd rather have Chet on the floor because I know he's going to, respect that SGA is the best player on the floor. I have to, not necessarily defer to him, but, like, everything revolves around him. Mm-hmm. And I think Victor has an opportunity that very few young players have to play with an all-time great in Chris Paul. And I just hope he takes advantage of it. I hope he picks his brain for everything because obviously completely different positions. But you're looking at a guy who's played with fucking Blake Griffin. He's played with, Devin Booker. He's played with, the list goes on and on. He's played with
DeAndre Jordan, James Harden.
Yep. Plenty of all-time greats. Guys who will be in the Hall of Fame one day. And, I think he's third all-time in assists, maybe second now.
Yeah, he's high.
So, yeah, this is a guy who you can, take a lot away from. But I just, I think not necessarily don't watch Wemby, but pay attention to a guy like Chet who, Wemby's the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. Deservingly so. He's a 7'4" freak.
Yeah.
Can guard all positions. But I like granted, small sample size, 3 games, but I like what I've seen from Chet a lot.
Yeah, Chet does things in a more, they're just, kind of what you were saying before, like conducive to winning basketball.
And it's hard to conceptualize because, I like to, when I'm talking about this with my friends, like I'll say like casual basketball fans. Like guys will be like, oh, did you see what Wemby did? Like he almost had a quad dub. It's like, great. How much did they lose by?
Yeah, I find myself doing that a lot. And but I do wonder though, because basketball is definitely a star-driven sport, but also at the same time, like now more than, not ever, but now more than probably in the past 20 to 30 years, like your team is so important. So you got to wonder, like if, like Chet more so has the perfect situation around him.
Yeah.
Whereas Wemby, you add a guy like Chris Paul that helps. I like Vassell. I like some of the pieces individually, and I like some of even the fits. But I do think like last year, even a little bit still this year, I think there's just a lack of talent. There's a lack of versatility, and just overall, like, when they were building the team out over the past 5 years, they weren't thinking we're probably going to get the 7'4" freak of nature.
No, yeah.
So you have to still build the team around Wemby to make it make sense as he develops.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not trying to hate on the kid. Like you can see he's got unbelievable work ethic. He certainly loves the game of basketball. Cried after losing the gold medal game. Like that's a guy who cares,
Yeah.
You can tell he loves basketball. And I think he's going to be an unbelievable player. I think he's going to, win a couple Defensive Player of the Years. He'll get an MVP or two. But I think when you do, listen, we've had a couple guys come into the league since LeBron that you put this crazy pressure on them, and pressure's good to an extent, but it's like no one since LeBron has actually lived up to that amount of pressure.
Yeah, it's rare, very rare. Even a guy like a Zion who probably will end up being if he's barring too many injuries, like he'll probably end up being like a 6+ time All-Star. A couple All-NBAs maybe at his
It'll
peak.
Be like
he's not even going to be close to what was the expected of him.
Well, it's funny because when he came into the league, his NBA comparison was Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin's not going to be in the Hall of Fame, but he was a Hall of Fame talent.
Yeah,
for sure. But
will he be in the Hall of Fame? Is there a chance?
No. What are his accolades? Couple maybe 3-time All-NBA, 7-time All-Star, and no championships.
That's a shame. Blake was a beast.
It's tough because it's like this is, it's like we were talking about, talent doesn't necessarily equal winning basketball.
Okay.
And I noticed you were, I do my research. So you were talking with Dom about, KD being one of those guys who might fill up the stat sheet, but he's not a winner.
Yeah.
Blake Griffin was kind of the same way. Like, those, you can't tell me those Clippers teams shouldn't have won a championship.
I know. I do look back though, and I something that I go back and forth on a lot because, one day I'm like, well, just like I kind of get fed up. I throw my arms up. I'm like, all right, just win, just like win a ball game.
Yeah.
Just be conducive to winning. Find a way, because I feel like in my experience playing, the better player just finds a way to win more so than anything.
Yep.
But I wonder if that's also kind of just seeing it through like a result-based, vision. Like sometimes I look back on, what's the team I look back on? I think the 17 Rockets that won like 65 games.
The team that went to the Western Conference Finals.
Went 7 with the Warriors.
I think it was 2018.
On 18.
It was either 17 or 18 because next 19 was the year the Raptors won.
Yeah, so either way,
Yep.
Whichever team it was, the team that won 65 games and the Warriors won like 73,
Yep.
they had them. Or maybe not 73, that Warriors team, though, they had them in 7.
They should have won. Paul doesn't bum his hamstring.
They win. And so
but they weren't the better team. Talent-wise?
Yeah, I know. But I think that was like their window. And I look back at that and I'm like, damn, like it really just didn't work out. And if they win that game, who knows what happens? Like they win the finals for sure.
Yeah.
But then it's like, who knows what else happens from that point on? Maybe they double down on Harden. Like they've not that they didn't triple down on him in Houston. They tried everything.
Yeah.
But it's like you now can add to that formula. It's a winning formula. The confidence that they have. Maybe a couple more shots go in the next season. Like a couple more playoff wins. Teams look at them look across from themselves and they say like, oh, this is a Rockets team we need to be scared of.
Well, I think that's a big point that I'm glad you brought up because two things come about from that. The general basketball community looks at James Harden a lot different if he wins that championship. Because because for the longest time it's been like James Harden can't win, you can't win around him. Don't look now, but the bum ass Clippers are 2-1, and he's got some quality wins this year.
Oh yeah,
he
plays good.
They took the Suns to overtime, game 1, beat the Nuggets, and I forget who they beat someone else. That wasn't bad. But it's like. You look at him, you look at his stat sheet now, and he's 34 years old. What the hell do you want from the guy? But it's like, it's the attention he draws. Like, he's still, I still think he's the best pick and roll player in the NBA.
He has been for fucking who knows how long now.
He times it perfectly. Like, he waits for the double to come, and a big, like, Ivica Zubac is perfect for him. Throws it up to him. Ivica Zubac is averaging 23 and 14 right now.
I mean, dude, and you can just lob it up to him. I mean, his timing is impeccable. That's why I thought him and Embiid would be better.
Yeah. Well, if Embiid can stay on the fucking court. But another thing would come about if that Rockets team won the championship is that it was like what you were saying, that mold, that recipe would be a lot more heavily favored. It's kind of what Dallas has done.
Yeah.
With Luka. It's like, but now it's like the narrative is you can't win with that. They call it like the heliocentric.
Yeah.
You play around one guy, surround him with shooters, and you have like one rim running big. But basically, the offense is that guy. You have a guy with like a 35 to a 40% usage rate, and you just let him. Jesus Christ, you let him do whatever he wants, basically, and you live or die with that result.
Yeah, I think that, from what I understand, became. There's been heliocentric basketball throughout all of time in a weird way, but the more modern version was like the Heat when Wade and Bosch weren't on the floor, or like when Wade and Bosch weren't on the floor, and it was just the LeBron show.
Yep.
And I think what happened was analytics saw how effective a LeBron only team was when you have like someone that can roll the basket and a bunch of shooters around him, and then they, it's basically just been like the effort to replicate it. And I just don't think there's a guy out there with, the talent of LeBron. You need like the shooting of like a Luka or Harden, and then the defense of a LeBron.
You ready for this? This is perfect because when I said to you that there are certain guys that fly under the radar that I want to talk about, I had one guy in mind. The first guy I had in mind is Paolo Banchero.
He's a monster.
He is the least talked about number 1 overall pick in the last I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
And he is unbelievable. If you look at LeBron's first couple seasons in Cleveland, and you look at what Paolo's done his first couple of years in Orlando, there are striking similarities. Mm-hmm. But I think the way he plays is very similar to how Melo played.
Okay.
He's very similar, but he's a better playmaker.
For sure.
Playmaker. And I think last night, what he dropped, 50-point triple-double?
Yeah.
He's unbelievable.
Almost.
But he's another guy who's not, he's in Orlando, not a big market team. The way he plays might not be like, it's not Steph Curry. It's not, Luka. It's not Anthony Edwards. So it doesn't look pretty because, he's posting up. He's banging down low. So it might not like jump off the page and you're like, oh, I don't love watching this guy play. But you can't disagree with results. I mean, he took a loaded Cavs team, not loaded, but he took a good Cavs team to 7 last year in the playoffs. In his second season, 21 years old, averaging 27. And the big knock on him has been he hasn't been able to shoot threes. Shot 40% in that series. This season, he's shooting 40%.
Yeah, if he can figure out that 3-point shot in like a consistent way, especially come playoffs, like he's a gigantic issue. And I think that he will get the attention as time comes. I think it's going to be just something that takes time.
It's still early, but it's hard for me to hear certain guys, catch the attention of the national media. And I'm just like, man, this guy is like just as good, if not better, than a lot of these guys.
It does feel kind of random, doesn't it? Like they just pick guys that like have maybe like an exciting attribute, or maybe just one exciting moment or night or whatever it is, and then that's who they run with.
Well, I think if you ask most casual NBA fans who would you rather have on your team right now? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Edwards. I bet you like 8 out of 10 would say Anthony Edwards.
Definitely, and I think
he's not.
As of right now, it's probably not even a question. Like you probably want Shai about 8 out of 10 times. I mean, there's 2 scenarios, or there's definitely 2 out of 10 opportunities, or more even, that Anthony Edwards ends up being better than SGA long term. I do wonder sometimes about SGA's frame, and just like if he's gonna be able to take some of the damage that comes with being like a point guard of that with that much volume. But he's done it so far, and he's handled it very well. And I think he's a great pick and roll player. He can shoot. He can do all the things you need, and he's leading a good team already. Yeah, and in a good way. It's not like it's like an Anthony Edwards way where sometimes I watch him play and I'm just like, dude, like stop, But those have always been the best players.
Those are the players. I think it's tough because it's like those are the players who will get the most attention, and rightfully so because they're unbelievable. But a big thing for me is and granted, there are certain situations where, Anthony Edwards in Minnesota right now, he doesn't really have like a second guy. Like I don't want to hear anything about Julius Randle. Julius Randle sucks.
Even Cat at the time.
He's just soft. Like Cat's soft, not Julius Randle. Julius Randle is like, I don't know, lost. But but I like to look at how can you impact the game when you don't have the ball in your hands.
I know, bro.
And how, and to follow that up, do you need the ball in your hands? Shai averages 30, but he doesn't force anything. If you watch how he plays, it's all smart, good shots. And he doesn't really play to what you said about, how long can he handle that kind of, wear and tear on his body. He doesn't really play, a reckless style.
It's not, I was going to say he's very elusive, too. He does a good job of mitigating the damage. Yeah. And by damage, a good example of that would be someone like a Chris Paul, who would get to the playoffs and break down sometimes. Yeah. But I think his frame even was good for it. I mean, he's small, but he still had a good frame. He was pretty thick of a dude. But when you're a point guard and you're doing all that downhill, you're doing all the change of direction. Yeah, it's hard on your knees. It's hard on everything, especially when you're not that big. God forbid you get bumped. It's just stuff like that. I'm always a fan of a bigger body. There's a reason it's rare that a guy like Steph comes around. So small.
Well, I mean, just look at it.
Even he's been bulked up too.
But even that, just got hurt the other night.
And his ankles have always been a problem. It's just he kind of got not lucky, but it worked out enough times to where he could, finish the job.
Well, look at a guy like LeBron, who has never, outside of that one season in LA where they threw him out there with a bunch of 19-year-olds. He's never missed more than 10 games, 15 games in a season.
Dude, that's the frame. That's the frame.
And that's why I'm so high on a guy like Paulo, because he's so filled out. And he plays such a physical style. But he's another one. I watch him play, and I'm like, this guy doesn't really need the ball. You watch their offense. He's their best player. They run it through him. But he's not demanding the ball.
Tatum's like that.
Yeah,
Tatum can play off the ball, and I think that's the same part that keeps him out of top 5 conversations a lot of times, is just his not inability, but the fact that he doesn't need the ball. Yep. And because he's good without it, they can put him off the ball, and you can give a guy like Jalen the reins. You can give last night Peyton Pritchard the reins. You can do that, and he can still be pretty effective, even if he's not shooting well. It's he's just
he impacts the game.
Space.
He impacts the game in so many other ways. He's a great defender. He's our best rebounder. He's taken his game to another level, facilitating wise.
Yeah, for sure.
With him and Jalen, I get so frustrated watching them because they could be so much better. Like, we could win every game by 20 points.
I know.
And I don't think I'm exaggerating by saying that. Like, if you actually watch the game last night, how many times did one of them, like, get the ball over half court, dribble, 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 dribble. Now all of a sudden you look at the shot clock, there's 9 seconds left. No one else has touched the ball. And then they just do some stupid shit. Like, yeah, sometimes it goes in, sometimes it doesn't. But that's great. We won the championship. We're, favored to win this year. But I hate that. Like, I just hate that.
I wonder what it would look like if a team really did. I mean, and we're about as close as a team's ever come to fully committing to, like, space, pass, shoot when you're open.
Well,
Pass, shoot.
Look at those Warriors teams.
I know.
That was the perfect example.
And it kind of worked out, too, for them because their two best players were, Steph was insane off the dribble. I'm not going to say he wasn't, but he was better off the ball even. And
he's a shooting guard at the end of the day. He's a shooting guard.
Yeah. Him and Clay is the same thing. Clay can score on 11 dribbles. So it was like the way that they were at their best was to keep the ball moving. Draymond, too. Draymond wasn't good if the ball was stuck in his hands. He's good if he's catching. He can pass like a motherfucker.
Great. If you really want to get into like a technicality, he was their point guard.
Dude, he was so damn good those years, man. Guard, dude. I loved watching Draymond those years, especially in the finals. He was so good.
You can, and I was talking to one of my buddies about this the other day. You can say whatever the hell you want about a guy like Draymond. They don't win 4 championships without him.
Oh, no way.
He is a guy who, if you look at the Bucks, you're like, wow, Draymond had 8, 6, and 4, and you're like, he sucks. But if you watch the game, he impacts winning like no one else. His energy, he communicates the whole game. Like, he knows where guys are supposed to be. He puts guys in the right spots. Like, that is the stuff that, like, will never show up in a box score.
Yeah, like those Derek White types. And Derek White now, he's in the box score.
Well, Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday's awesome, bro. Man, another guy that's just, but like, and that's another guy with a good frame. I'm a big frame guy. You need the body to do it.
You're kind of bringing that up. I never really obviously I think about it, but you look at the guys who are like KD. I mean, those injuries don't happen by accident. The only one I would kind of fight you on is Kawhi. Like, that guy's got the perfect basketball body, big hands, long arms. He's built, and then apparently this knee thing he's got going on is a lot more serious than I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, bro, I always kind of felt like he loves the hoop and he don't really care about anything else. And I felt like if he wasn't playing, it wasn't because he was just being a pussy. That was always my mind. I never really got on him about it. He's not. He's not. He wants to hoop. He loves to hoop.
Yep.
And I really saw that in that All-Star game when it was
the Kobe one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he took LeBron one-on-one. LeBron got the better of him. LeBron clamped. But I just like that energy sometimes of being like, yo, let me get this fucking shot. Like, I want this shit. Yeah. And in that final moment. And it's, again, it kind of goes against what we've been saying, though, of like, you got to play the efficient game and do the right things. And, man, it's just such a tough conversation for me. Like, I go back and forth so much because I love confidence. I love a guy that'll just go take a bad shot and hit it. Like, something about it just gives me that feeling. Listen,
every great player is going to take bad shots, but you need to take those bad shots because it shows a certain level of confidence. Mm-hmm. Ben Simmons, we talked about him. I don't want to talk about him for too long because he sucks, but he was a perfect example. Like, this guy had, all the attributes of what could have been a great player. And it was just the mental side of things. He was so weak mentally.
I know, dude. Still.
But KD's another one. So weak mentally.
I know. But then again, you got to wonder. I was saying the same thing. If his foot isn't on the line, he's in the finals with the Nets. And it's just so is that another one where it's just barely missed,
Yeah.
His opportunity was missed, and now we see him as a loser.
Yeah.
Harden, his opportunity was missed, now we see him as a loser. Chris Paul, a bunch of times, kept getting injured. Guys would get injured around him, and you're like, all right, here we go again. Now he's a loser. Chris Paul, I can't sit here and say that Chris Paul is a loser. I can't.
I get what you're saying.
Even though he didn't win. So it's, and, that's why it's hard to put it on one guy. But I was saying it earlier about Durant. I'm like, it just happens too much in games where I watch them have good games.
Yep.
And they lose. Or the inverse. They'll have a bad game and they'll win. And I'm like, so what are you doing? Yep. Where are your fingerprints on this game? Are you just quiet out there hooping?
Yeah.
I don't know. Me being a guy that when I played, it wasn't like, not that I was in the league or nothing, but
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm playing and even just playing in like playing outside, like, you can kind of get like this vibe from like pickup ball. Like if you can just go like kind of win a ball game without doing anything.
Yeah, I mean,
like too exciting stat sheet wise.
Listen, neither of us were, you know, we did not fill up the stat sheet.
Maybe that's because we're those types of guys.
But listen, you can go watch our high school tapes. I'm sure Coach Scary's got them locked away somewhere.
Yeah.
Both of us,
Deep.
both of us impacted winning in a game that was never going to, like, show up on the stat sheet.
Yeah.
You know, like, just doing, like, little shit that, like, no one, and, like, I still coach to this day, and I love it. I coach because I love basketball, and I love, like, you know, helping kids, like, develop their game and imparting, you know, what little brain cells and wisdom I have left onto them. But it's like, I try to explain to them, it's like, you know, there are certain things you have to do. You know, if you're on a team, you know, like we were with, like, great players, you know, great scorers, guys who, you know, need 15 to 20 shots a game. It's like, you know, I might only take 5 shots a game, but you can't take me off the floor because, like, you know, I'm out, like, I, you know, set up the offense. I'm going to, you know, take charges where that opportunity, I'm going to talk the entire game. It's like, those are the things that will never show up. And, like, granted, the highest level of basketball, I played this high school basketball, so.
Throw it all out the window, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it means nothing. But it's all relative. Like, you know, there will be a spot for you at the high school, at the college, at the professional level if you do things that other people aren't willing to do.
And that's where, like, a guy like Jrue Holiday or Derek
PJ
White,
Tucker.
PJ Tucker makes a whole career on it. 36 years old playing hoop, just doing the little things. Yeah. Even like a guy like Udonis Haslem, like just sitting on the bench, basically.
I mean, they
10 years on the bench.
They held a roster spot for him just because of his leadership.
Yeah. And like, that stuff matters, man.
Does.
Like, it just matters.
Yeah.
Like, just vibes. Vibes are important.
Yeah.
And, like, because I'll look at some of these teams that I think should be good. Like, I look at a lot of NBA rosters, and maybe it's just because, like, I see the talent in a lot of guys. Yep. And I'll be like, does this not work? Why are they not good?
Yeah.
Or I'll look at a team, and I'll be like, why is this one good? Why does this work?
Well, I mean, you could ask that. I mean, there's plenty of teams that you could, you know, say that about. Like, think about a good example. Like,
I look at us sometimes and think that. Like, I look at our Celtics.
Why do we work?
Like, why does this work? Because I look at, like, you know, if you want to, like, tier up guys, right? Yeah. Like, you know, we got maybe one A-tier guy, maybe 2 A-tier guys, you know? We don't have any, like, S-tier guys. We don't have any, like, top.
That's fair.
We have 2 A-tier guys. Maybe, like, 2 B-tier guys.
But, like, low B-tier.
Low B-tier.
Yeah, and that's no disrespect to them. That's just how much talent.
It's just what it is. Yeah. And then, like, when it comes to, like, Horford, Hauser, Pritchard, C-tier guys. And Hauser's a D-tier.
And
really.
Porzingis is, like, you know, when healthy, he's probably a little above Jrue and Derek.
Yeah, like a B-tier, though.
But, yeah, I mean, nothing more than that. And I always, you know, it's a corny-ass line, but, like, availability is the best ability.
For
like,
sure. If he's not playing, then he's an F tier.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
But then I look at, like, you know, the Mavs, or what's a better example? Like the Knicks. You know, they're going to take some time, obviously, to come together, but I see, like, you know, Brunson and Cat, like 2 A-tier guys.
All right, I think this example might be better. What about the Suns? That will never work.
Like, what the fuck? But, like, you know, you got an S-tier guy, maybe 2.
Yeah.
S-tier. Like, top of the line. Like, some people think Book and Durant are the 2 best at their position. Some people think that.
I disagree.
I don't.
But,
but people think that.
No,
you know?
And I mean...
And, like, so you got that.
Bradley
and then
Beal's no scrub. It's like...
Beal's at least a B tier.
Yeah.
You know, he still can go out in there and cook. And then I see,
Nurkic,
like, I love Tyus Jones. And Nurkic is good. Like, these are guys, like...
And they got a championship-winning coach now, too.
Yeah, like, what's going on? Like, so I'm looking at that, and I'm like, all right, well, why does ours work and theirs doesn't? I felt the same way about that old Nets team, too.
Yeah.
When we beat them, I'm like, why did we just sweep that Nets team? It doesn't make sense.
I mean... People will say it's overrated and it doesn't mean anything, but like chemistry and like camaraderie within the locker room means so much more. Like you can never, very rarely will you throw together a group of guys, you know, through free agency and it works.
Okay.
I think the Miami Heat back in, you know, the early 2010s, other than that, point me another example where it worked.
It's hard to make that work without it, like, just adding on to an already, or like Durant to the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean,
like, it already worked.
But they were already a championship team.
And then you just added Durant to it.
Yeah, that Miami team was not a championship team. It's like, look at that Mavericks team that Dirk won with.
In a weird way, it was. They just won in 06. It was only a couple years prior.
Yeah, but they didn't have Shaq anymore.
I know. Shaq wasn't great, though.
He wasn't great, but
in the finals, at least. Like, he wasn't great. It was Wade.
Yeah, it was Dwayne Wade, but Dwayne Wade had also taken, a step or two back.
Yeah, he wasn't the same Wade. Another guy that I felt like, not another guy, but a guy that I felt like could have been maybe better if his longevity was a little bit better. Those small guards, man.
Well, it's like they're just their play style. Like, they have to, because in the NBA, if you're a 6'2", 6'3" guard, like, you have to play, you have to be better than everyone in order to make it. Like, skill, talent-wise, like, otherwise you're just not going to find yourself on the floor. Like, you're on the floor with a bunch of 6'8", 6'9" guys who can shoot and handle the ball. It's like, you have to be unbelievable. So it's like, guys like, Westbrook, guys like Derrick Rose, guys like Dwayne Wade, like, they're going to get hurt. They're going to get banged up because they're playing so fucking hard all the time.
I know.
But they don't have a choice.
And you just need to, like, the cuts are crazy. The cuts are more intense. Like, the speed is higher. Like, your body is also just smaller. You're just not built to withstand that type of force, I feel like. And in most cases, like, a guy like Derrick Rose, like, it's just that's why it's so rare to see, like, a guard, like a Steph Curry. Isaiah Thomas for the Pistons. But that's another guy broke down. Just broke down. It's like hard.
It's like the guys who rely heavily on their athleticism will eventually reach a point where it's like, it's not like a gradual decline, it's like a sharp decline. Like Allen Iverson.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. It's like, but it's like a guy like Steph or a guy like KD who can fall back and rely on their shooting. Like, there was a reason why I never felt like Klay Thompson was going to lose it. And it's because, like, he never did anything that required any sort of athleticism.
I know. I mean, his defense is so huge.
His defense has taken a step back.
Now it's just...
It's not good anymore.
It's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, his shooting's still there, though, man.
Yeah, I mean...
38% last year.
Yeah.
And people kind of forget that because he has such a bad playing game, but...
Yeah.
And it's not the same, but it's still, like, he can still shoot.
Yeah. I mean, I think Kobe's a perfect example. Not a guy that, like, relied heavily on athleticism, because it's like, you want to compare him to... the Jordan mold and stuff, but he was not Michael Jordan. Granted, yes, his movements were very similar to Mike, but he was not the athlete Mike was.
Not even close.
But Kobe relied so much on footwork and his cuts, and it's like, he was a guy, you might think of Kobe as a ball hog and stuff like that, but he played within the flow of the offense. After he tore his Achilles, he was never the same guy.
I know. It's a shame. But like, a guy like Kobe's a good example of a dude that did take bad shots, though, and still won 5 championships. And 2, I'd argue, are some of the toughest championships, like, in terms of help he had versus teams he was going up against. Yeah. Like, maybe not that Magic team, but, like, he was going up against those Celtics teams, which were fucking disgusting. Like, those are tough finals appearances to go up against. And obviously when he's playing with Shaq, that's a completely different thing. Shaq was absolutely, like, untouchable for, like, 3 years, man. But, like, I see a guy like Kobe win it like that, and he takes those, like, what-the-fuck shots. I mean, Shaq, there was no what-the-fuck shot because they were all 4 feet away. Yeah. But still, like, even him, like, it's the same deal. It wasn't like he was just, like, super efficient. I mean, efficient, but not, like, super, like, I don't even know, like in the flow. Like, he was just kind of doing shit.
He didn't force anything.
Yeah, and then I think of, like, teams like the Spurs that won, or, like, those old Celtics teams that won. But then there's, like, guys like Jordan, which I guess that was, like, that Bulls team. Looking back on it, is like the one example of where you actually had both living together. Like, where you had the star player that was taking the stupid shots and was insane. Yeah. And you had the beautiful team at the same time. Like, because you were playing in that triangle offense.
I agree, because Phil Jackson was a genius. I mean, he's the best coach of all time. I don't really see how you could make an argument. Yeah, you want to argue Red Auerbach? Fine. There were 6 teams in the league. Like, I really don't want to. And I don't want to fault guys. It's hard. You can't fault guys for playing in certain eras because it's not fair.
Yeah, it's just different.
But Phil was unbelievable.
He did get handed some great talent, like a guy like Jordan or a guy like Kobe. But
it's also, like, and I was talking to one of my friends about this the other day. It's hard to coach good players. Yeah, it's very hard, and to get them to buy, especially for a guy like Phil, where, like, he wasn't just like a sit back and, like, roll the balls out, you guys do whatever you want. It was his system. You had to buy into his system, and to get a Michael Jordan, a Scottie Pippen, a Kobe Bryant, a Shaq to buy into your system, to get a Dennis Rodman to buy into your system, it's hard to do. I think those Miami teams, you can make the same argument. Because maybe they didn't have as much of, like, an offensive system, but what they did defensively was special. special because they
Forgotten about too.
maybe that Dallas finals loss is maybe the worst finals loss maybe of all time.
Dude, it should never have happened.
No.
That's the big. That's like that alone could be enough to keep LeBron from ever being like a GOAT conversation type of guy.
So me and one of my best friends from school talk about this all the time. He's a huge LeBron fan. He's got LeBron tatted on his leg.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's insane.
Dave?
Yeah.
Wow. Wild.
It's the block on Iguodala.
Oh, that's
he has it tattooed on his calf.
I'd never. That's tough as fuck. Though.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But kind of looks like Martin Luther King a little bit. But anyways, because I always go back and like I'll talk to him about it. I'm like, what is the argument against LeBron? Like I'm like I can't come up with it in my head. And he's like that 2011 finals. He goes, Mike never had that.
Yeah, there's no collapse of that magnitude. I mean, except for unless you wanted to count leaving the sport. It's just and also like 2 3-peats is so fucking tough to beat. Like,
so here's
like you do it once,
Yeah.
and like you'd be like etched in history
Yeah.
forever. You know, you do it twice, you're like, what the fuck? Like,
So here's a hypothetical I pitched to someone the other day. So so when Mike left the sport in '94,
yeah,
and the Bulls team went on to win 55 games. If that Bulls team, because they lost to New York in 7 in the semis, I believe. If that Bulls team goes on to win the finals that year, granted they wouldn't because Hakeem had maybe the best single season in NBA history.
Mm-hmm.
If that team wins the finals, what does that do to Mike? Do you think that does anything to Mike's case?
I think so for sure. I mean,
or do you think that does more for Scottie?
I mean, it would do a fuck ton for Scottie.
Yeah.
But I do think I would do more for Scottie than it would do against
Absolutely,
Jordan.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it would. I mean, it would basically make Jordan not the GOAT. Like I think that it would take him from down below LeBron in that capacity, maybe below like a Kareem even.
Yeah.
Just because it would prove that in a lot of ways that they didn't need him. But I know a lot of people point at that season. They're like, yeah, they won 55 games without him. They were never going to win it without him.
No. They
Like
weren't.
that was not even a thought. Like, yeah, they went 7. And I don't want to hear it. And people say, like, yeah, but like this.
No.
I'm like, no, it was never going to happen. And the reason it was never going to happen is the same reason that the Raptors were never going to win without Kawhi.
No.
They were never going to win without Kawhi. They were never going to win with DeMar. It was just never going to happen.
Yeah.
They needed Kawhi.
There's a certain level. Once you get to a certain point, once you're playing a team in a series, people don't understand this. They're like, oh, they beat them in the regular season. A series is so much different that, you get matched up with a team on a Tuesday night on a back-to-back. It's not the same. Like, you're not game planning. You're not thinking about it. You're not rested. You have a whole series to game plan. If, say by some miracle that Bulls team, because they, if you look at the Eastern Conference that year, they were probably the best team in the East.
Yeah.
Probably were.
Team. Yeah.
You were not beating that Rockets team without Mike.
There was no shot.
No
and
way.
they couldn't even make it, to be honest. And
Did the Knicks
but they were
play
never
them?
going to.
Was it the Knicks and the Rockets in the finals that year?
Yeah. Yes. I think that was when OJ. I think they split that. They had a double
Split
box.
screen?
They had a double box of
That's funny.
either the Rockets
Chase.
in the finals or the Western Conference Finals, with the Chase on one side and the Rockets winning the finals.
You
on
want to
the other
talk
side.
about, most memorable moments in sports history. That might be number one. Just because, people who didn't even give a shit about sports are like, oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and also you're watching, there's not that many channels. There's no streaming. You don't get to choose what you're watching much of the time. Like, if the NBA Finals are on, you'll just watch.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a sports fan, really.
Just put it on.
It's kind of like, when we were watching, the Super Bowl. Everything was like that.
Yep.
And because there wasn't much to watch. So, and either that, you're watching that, or the news, and they just so happened to cross over that day. So everyone probably has seen Hakeem shoot at some point in their life, even if they're not a ball fan.
Yeah.
But they also got to watch OJ on the run, which was nuts. But
I don't think people understand, because people are like, oh, OJ Simpson, everyone knows the name. They don't understand. Like, imagine, I'm trying to think of it in today's standards. Imagine if, Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Because OJ Simpson he was filthy. I think he had the first 2,000-yard rushing season in NFL history.
He did.
So it's like, you want to talk about, because people don't understand, granted, he played in the early 70s. So people today don't think about just how big a deal that is. Imagine Derrick Henry goes out, murders his fucking wife and her or ex-wife and her boyfriend.
Allegedly.
Nah, you fucking did it. You've heard about the book that he wrote? How I would have done it.
Yeah.
Psychopath.
Wild
Psychopath.
Shit. Wild shit.
But, yeah, I mean...
Derrick Henry kills his wife ex-wife
and then he's
boyfriend.
The police are chasing him
and he's
down the highway.
Riding away in a Tesla.
Wild.
Like, yo, that's crazy shit.
It's insane.
That's crazy shit.
Yeah.
That will never happen, really. I don't think anything that crazy will ever happen again. But back to the point, though. Like, you know, the Bulls were never gonna.
I forgot what we were talking.
Yeah, the Bulls were never gonna win that series against the Rockets. Rockets were untouchable. I do think I've had people say it to me in the past that Jordan on the Bulls, they don't win that series against the Rockets. Like if Jordan's still on the Bulls.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I have a really hard time believing that. I feel like people look at that Rockets team, that 2-year stretch where they just dominated, and how good Hakeem was, and they kind of just, because there was so much winning for the Bulls, they kind of just throw out the fact of how gross they were. They literally, any full season Jordan played from X time to X time, from 90 to 98, they literally just didn't lose.
Yeah.
You know, like not even no game sevens in the finals.
I know it's tough because as great of a coach as Phil was, he was not a defensive minded coach.
No, not at all.
And they didn't. And so they would have. Okay, so at the time they would have played that Rockets team. They wouldn't have had Dennis.
Right.
So you just start to think about hypothetical, because at that time from 90, you want to talk. What was their first championship? 91?
Yeah,
91 to 98. The two best players in the NBA were Jordan and Hakeem.
Yep.
I don't really think that's up for debate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw Karl Malone out there. Fine. I don't give a shit. He's not better than Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah.
Never was. They never matched up in the finals. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it would just be up for debate, because you start looking. You're going to put you going to put Luke Longley on him?
Yeah, that's a huge problem. Definitely the matchup for Hakeem. But at the same time,
who are you going to put on Jordan? Yeah.
There was no one on planet Earth.
No, yeah. Because that's the thing. You want to talk about one guy who probably could have guarded Jordan? He was on the same team.
He was on the team. Yeah. That's the problem. And then also you're getting that that iron sharpening, or was it like metal?
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. Yeah. Like in practice every day.
And they practiced.
Oh yeah.
They practiced.
Jordan was psychotic. Yeah. He was a psychopathic man. He's still a psychopathic man.
Yeah.
That settled for nothing short of the best. You ever see those like Tiger Woods interviews of him being like, I want to be the best. I want to win every tournament. And they're like, what are you talking about, kid? You know, you don't win every tournament. He's like, I want to win every tournament. Why would I show up to lose?
Crazy.
And it's that type of
Tom Brady.
Yeah, psychotic. Yeah. Like, he's psychotic.
Lunatic.
And I think Jordan was psychotic.
Yeah.
And a piece of you needs to be psychotic. The best player in any sport to do it without being a psycho, I think, is LeBron. I don't think LeBron's psychotic.
If you listen,
and that's what bothers people.
If you listen, cool, because that's the thing. People are always looking for a reason to hate him.
Yeah.
Since
what a good guy.
Since the spotlight has been on him, I mean, like, since the spotlight's been on him at 16, when he got the chosen one tattooed on his fucking back, he has done nothing wrong.
Just a good dude.
Being great. His son is in the NBA.
Yep.
Great father. He's paying for like the school he has in Akron, where he pays for, I don't even know how many kids like to go to school. They get like books, backpacks, clothes, all this stuff. They get a college fund. It's like, can I sign up?
Yeah, like I promise school. Yeah. I mean, dude, he's incredible as a person, and as a husband, as a father. Like, I mean, he's just a good. I mean, I hate to be on the LeBron slurp train, but I mean, just a good dude.
He's done
well-adjusted.
He's done nothing wrong.
He doesn't overdo it. No. You know, he's just a good guy. Yeah. I think there's a piece of us that's like, we don't like that he's almost ordinary. Like, we don't like that. Like, I mean, obviously his athletic abilities,
like
God-given.
His athletics and his size-wise, like, he's a freak of nature. But this is the type of guy you could just kick it with. Like, and
I don't think we like that. I think we'd rather them be psychotic so that we can make the excuse.
You want to see them as more than human. Mm-hmm. But because he's so, like, I don't want to use the word down to earth, because he's not down to earth. But he's just like, he's just one of the guys. Yeah. And it's like, because you view him as a person who you could have a conversation with, like, back to what you were saying, like, people don't like that. Like, with Kobe was another one. Kobe was fucking insane.
Yeah, we don't have to live to Kobe's standards, which is nice for us to feel. Because, like, we're never going to achieve that level of greatness, or, never. Like, you hope in your own field you can do something good.
Yes.
But no one wants the pressure of being, like, as good in their field as Kobe was in his, or as Jordan is, or, Anthony Edwards is now living up to that same breadth of just, like, wacky confidence. Just absurd confidence, blind confidence. And then he doesn't have the same work ethic as I feel these other guys did. But, like, Jordan and Kobe were, like, sick people. Like, they were, like, sick and obsessed. Tom Brady was, like, sick and obsessed. Yeah. And I think that's what pushes the human limit. Yeah. I do wonder, though, because of how good LeBron is naturally, and not that he doesn't work hard, he does a ton of work. Yep. And it's obvious. He knows the game so well.
Maybe
he knows
the best
other teams.
Basketball mind ever.
Oh, my God. His IQ is through the roof, and it's through studying, too. He studies the tape. Like, we know this. But if he was, like, obsessed to that level where he didn't have a family, like, he just couldn't handle it. He just did his own thing, let the wife take care of it. You figure it out. Yeah. I'm obsessed with this thing forever. Yeah.
So you're saying, like, if he wasn't...
I wonder what he would have been like.
If he wasn't, like, a family man, if he didn't, like, do all this, like, philanthropic type stuff. Like, if he was just, like, this is all I care about.
Just obsessed.
I mean, you got to think, like, he's already, we're not going to... Because we could do this for hours, debate about who the best player of all time is. But, like, take your pick. It's Jordan or LeBron. It's one of those two. Like, old heads will say Kareem, Bill Russell, like, stop it.
Some people love Kobe for that.
And
I can't. I just can't.
This is going to sound awful, but, like, I'm going to feel like a dick saying this, but those conversations didn't come up until he passed away.
Yeah.
And it fucking sucks. And, like, I hate saying that because it's so sad that he's dead. But it's like, go back 4 years, go back 5 years, no one was putting Kobe in the GOAT conversation.
There were a couple like, super Kobe guys. And then, but, like, no one was really saying it until... he passed. And
it's awful because it never should have happened. It was such a freak accident, and it's like, it's so sad. Like, I remember, like, I remember the day he died. Like, I cried. I hadn't cried in years.
Yeah,
bawled my eyes out like a baby.
My mom, and my sister cried. They don't like basketball. It's something about it was different
because he was another, like, we call him a psychopath, but he was a good guy.
Yeah,
loved his family, had 4 beautiful daughters. Like, just sad. But it's like, and it's like. You don't. It's like the saying where, like, you don't realize what you have until it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like you feel like a guy like that, gets underappreciated. So people want to throw him in the. Listen, he's top 10 all time. Let him have that. He's not the greatest basketball player of all time.
Is he top 10?
And that's a sad conversation that I don't want to have because I'm not ready to accept that. If he's outside of the top 10.
Like, I think about it sometimes. Not that I put any of these guys above him. I'm just going to say some names right now. Yep. I'm just going to say LeBron. I'm just going to say Jordan. I'm just going to say Hakeem. Yep. I'm just going to say Bill Russell. Kareem. I'm going to say Kareem. I'm going to say Chamberlain. I'm going to say Tim Duncan. I'm going to say Larry Bird. I'm going to say Magic Johnson. I'm going to say Steph Curry. I'm going to say Kevin Durant.
Shaq.
I'm going to say Shaq. I'm just going to say these names. And there's more names, know. And I'm not that anyone. I mean, 2 of those guys are definitely better than him, minimum. But there's names.
Yeah,
there's names.
There's absolutely names.
Me personally, this guy. I think to me Jordan's the GOAT. I'm a Jordan guy. Mm-hmm. I love Jordan. Yep. And since he's like diet Jordan. Yep. Like, he even has himself a 3-peat, which is good for him. He won some really fucking tough championships. Bro. He did. Rough teams that he had. I mean, good teams. And Pau Gasol is underrated as fuck, but no guy to save his ass. It was him. Yeah. So, and I infinite respect, and because just the way he did it, just like Jordan, and I love Jordan. He's like in my maybe even top 5 or 8, but I don't think I'd really think too much about someone saying he's not top 10.
It's not like a blasphemous take.
It's not.
And it's like I heard this argument the other day, and I don't buy into half the shit that they say on, all these talk shows and stuff, because most of these guys didn't play basketball. Yeah. And they just get paid to say nonsense. Like Skip Bayless, like, stop it.
Yeah.
But Kobe won 3 championships as a Robin.
Hey.
And it's like...
But... same time, I love someone's ability to be a Robin.
Well, at the same time, he was also... How old was he? 22, 23,
Would you rather
24?
Be a bad Batman or a damn good Robin?
A Batman that never wins. Yeah, no one gives Dwayne Wade shit. I'm just saying that would be... I would never make that argument against him. But that could be a case someone made. because, and this is a hypothetical. This is like a world we would never live in. But like, imagine Shaq not on those Lakers teams. Probably Kobe, like, I mean, but that changes the whole storyline. He probably doesn't even, because so much of those other two was that he wanted to get more than Shaq.
Yeah, it
So
added to fuel to the fire for sure. And chasing Jordan, which he couldn't catch him, but you're chasing like, some things. And, he never, and even he probably would have said like in his heart of hearts that Jordan was probably better. Like, I see those interviews where he says it's him, Jordan, and Bron. But of course he's gonna say that. I think in his heart of hearts, being someone that admired Jordan so much, he'd probably say the same thing.
Yep.
And just like you can just look at pretty much all the stats across the board, except for like maybe all defensive teams. I think Kobe has most all defensive teams, correct?
All defensive?
Yeah.
I thought it was Tim Duncan.
I know Tim Duncan had it like pretty much every year.
I think he had 15.
Dude, I think Kobe had like 18, bro. I'm not even kidding.
Maybe.
Dude, I think, or maybe most.
I don't want to.
He did have the most All Stars, I think, at least for a little bit until
Bron.
But this is gonna be the hard thing with Bron. I think it was an easy conversation for me to have to say Jordan was better before LeBron started doing this weird shit where he's just good at 40.
Yeah,
like that's weird.
32-point triple-double.
Stop doing that. He needs to stop doing that if I'm gonna be able to keep this up.
My thing was
I can't.
And I didn't want to get into this, but I was Jordan. I really didn't. I was Jordan for the longest time until I stopped being able to come up with a reason for why it was Jordan. Like LeBron it was like you said, he just kept fucking doing things.
He just keeps doing stuff.
And it's like...
He needs to stop.
It's like, you're still a Jordan guy. And I got no issues with that. Like I said, it's 1A, 1B. Take your pick. Like everyone has their... Jesus Christ. Everyone has their reasons for why one or the other. But it's like... 40,000 points. He's going to finish with 10,000 rebounds, 10,000 assists, 4 championships. And granted, he lost 6 times in the finals, but he got there 10 fucking times. Like, ran into the greatest team of all time twice. That, and I see this post, it comes up in my feed every once in a while. It's like, imagine this, like the 3 best players of a generation, the best all-around player, the best scorer, the best shooter. The best shooter and the best scorer had to team up to beat the best all-around player.
Right.
It's fucking wild.
I do think, though, I think people give him a pass for that 73-9 Warriors team that beat him because they were so gross, and they were gross.
He should have beat
that team. Or not 73-9, the year before that.
He should have beat them.
I think he should have fucking beat them, bro.
Should have beat them.
He should have beat them.
But was that the year...
73-9, he came back.
Were they hurt that year? I don't remember.
See, that's the part that gets fuzzy with me.
I don't remember.
I don't think they were that... If they were hurt, they weren't. It wasn't like Kyrie was out or anything.
Kevin Love might have been out.
Think so?
I genuinely can't remember.
Let's just say he wasn't because I feel like
I know 2018 he trotted out.
Yeah, no, that was
sorry ass crew.
There was an excuse there. I think there's built an excuse there.
Yeah.
Any Durant year, there's excuses. Any year, 2018, there was excuses.
Yeah.
But bro, when you're stacking it up, like I know, like in some of the role players, I look back on them pretty fondly. They weren't great at the time, like a Deli or Iman or JR. I look back on them more fondly than they were actually probably performing, just because I love those guys and those teams.
Energy guys.
Yeah, but I'm stacking Bron to Curry. It's supposed to be you, Bron.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
I'm stacking Kyrie to Clay. It's supposed to be you, Kyrie.
Yep.
Sorry. I'm stacking Love to Draymond. Definitely Draymond, especially in the finals.
Was supposed to be Kevin Love.
Supposed to be Kevin Love. Sorry, pal.
Yeah.
So I look at those teams. I'm like, you guys underperformed.
Yeah.
They overperformed, and that meant that they beat you.
But I think that was in LeBron's defense. But I'm with you. I'm completely with you. 2 things. This was before Ty Lue was really got let off his leash.
He's pretty good now, man.
He's great now. He's unbelievable now. But he wasn't coaching those teams.
For sure.
And at the same time,
Bron's fault.
Absolutely. I know. I agree with you.
I think that is a huge part of that conversation that never gets talked about. Is Jordan's ability to be coached. Because you'd think he wouldn't be. You'd think he'd be uncoachable.
Yeah.
And maybe he just had the right coach come along, and that helped him out.
But I think the one coach that was able to coach LeBron was Eric Spoelstra.
Real shit.
And he was
real shit.
If you look at the coaches Bron had, granted his Cleveland days, I think he had Mike Brown.
Oh yeah.
Mike Brown's a great coach.
Yeah.
They were trotting out Larry Hughes with him and asking him to win games.
Tough shit.
I mean,
Big Z.
You know he has the most Big Z has the most games played with LeBron of any of his teammates.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you know, huh? Good for
It's
Big
sad.
Z.
fucking sad. But
it is, but I'm not that he hasn't had good teammates.
Yeah,
you know?
no. Listen, I will never make that argument. And I think another thing to note is, like I said, one of my best friends from school is a huge Lakers fan. We talk about this all the time. They'll, or not Lakers, LeBron fan.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go out and get at the deadline, they'll go get random role players just to try to fill needs and stuff. They get worse when they are on his team.
Yeah, they do.
And it's weird. Look at it, an example, look at a guy like Malik Beasley. Awful. Look at a guy like Taurean Prince was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Was another one. I'm trying to fucking think. It's happened time and time again where he'll just get and it's not like stars. Obviously if you're a star playing with LeBron, you got to take a backseat.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to fill up the stat sheet the same way you used to be. But guys underperform when they're with LeBron, and I don't know if it's a pressure thing or if it's they're not used to being put in that situation, but. I don't know. That's another thing to.
It is funky. Some
it's
guy.
weird.
I don't know what that's about. I've always noticed that even in his Heat days. I feel like a couple guys will play up in games or in series, but it feels like guys get worse, and I wonder if it's just because the volume of what LeBron's doing. He's literally does fucking everything.
And it's hard to say that about Jordan because again, you can't fault guys for the errors they played in. There was simply just less talent in the league.
For sure.
So it's you can't be John Paxson was a great player without Mike, but, with him, he was awful. It's John Paxson was John Paxson.
Yeah, no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you can't look at guys like Scotty and Dennis because they played their roles perfectly. And then...
Kukoc. Yeah. Another guy played his role perfectly. But I think maybe that's a coaching thing, too. It's I wonder... And I think... When I say back to the Heat days, that's probably the best example of guys not falling with LeBron. The only guys that really had to take backseat was Bosh.
Yep.
A couple guys played a little bit worse, but really, you got Mario Chalmers playing his best ball.
Mm-hmm.
You got Norris Cole probably playing his best ball. Shane Battier, maybe not his best ball, but at that point in his career, he was playing pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Knocking
down a bunch of threes, playing good defense.
Yeah. So I think that, again, that might be a coaching thing. Maybe that's time when guys were just playing their role, and then and other coaches just don't know how to put guys around LeBron. It's always been a big question because you want to say surround him with 4 shooters. It's not that easy.
No.
There's more to basketball than shooting.
Yeah.
Now, granted, especially nowadays,
shooting's
you
everything.
need to shoot.
Shooting's everything.
But we've surrounded Tatum with the right guys.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, kind of I have a question. So, how much do you think coaching in today's NBA, when there's so much talent, I think an expansion's coming within the next 5 years, just because there's so much talent, it needs to be dispersed in some capacity.
I agree.
Do you think coaching means more or less now that there is more talent in the NBA? And I think that's a loaded question.
It is. I think it matters more.
I agree.
I think it matters more. I think when there's more at play, there's more variables at play, I think coaching inherently starts to matter more.
Because you start looking back on teams even in the early to mid 2000s, and it's you look at those teams and you're they had 6 good players.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. You're I got my 5 starters and my 6 men. It's the rest of the team, whatever, you can give me spot minutes. But now it's you have to start to find, these lineups and these certain situations, more scenarios matter more now in basketball than they ever have.
Yeah.
Certain in-game situations, oh, this team is coming out in this defense. This guy is perfect for this type of defense. I need to find minutes for him. It's there's so many more in-game adjustments that need to be made rather than just rolling the ball. And I'm not trying to disrespect coaches that, coached in the 90s, early 2000s, because there were some unbelievable coaches. But I think their job was easier to an extent.
At the same time, I think the three-point line has made offensive basketball a lot easier because there is just inherent spacing.
Yes.
And you can always just be I'll just put a shooter out there.
Yeah.
Is space. As long as you're spaced, you're good. Whereas back in the day, you're trying to get as close to the basket all the time.
Yep.
And there's no way around it. Imagine if in football you could suddenly take a 50-yard field goal and it would be 6 points. It's you'd start to just set yourself up for 50-yard field goals.
Yeah.
And then you don't need to get all the way to the end zone. You don't need to have those grueling drives that take 12 plays and play action, setting up the run, all that. It's you could just pull up.
No,
It's the same thing in hoop now.
That's a good point. But
you
I
can just
think
shoot threes.
But I think it's more than just shooting threes. It's getting them within the flow of the offense. Like if you watch the Celtics, like I mean, obviously you're watching every Celtics game.
Oh
like,
yeah.
We're taking them. Granted, yes, like we talked about, there are bad shots, but we're taking them within the flow of the offense.
Yeah.
Like
They're taking, bro. Derek White especially.
Yeah.
I'm seeing him take some. I'm like, shit, bro. You just took that shit.
Yeah.
Like he took that one on Giannis's face yesterday.
They all got the green light. They all got the green light. But it's like
hit it.
It's being able to get guys to buy into that because you could easily just roll the ball out and just say, all right, get up our 53s. Mm-hmm. It's like if you have to know your personnel. There are good teams like, I'll use the Kings for example. They got a good team, but it's like you have to know with that roster, like I don't want DeMar DeRozan taking 10 threes. Like
no way.
I don't want Sabonis taking more than 2. It's like
I wish DeMar DeRozan would take a couple more threes, but that's just me. Maybe in the corner. Like I think he'd be a great corner shooter.
I think he would.
22 feet. He's made a whole living from 22 feet.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I mean, I think at this point he's just married to his game. He's like it's
a beautiful game.
He's an old school player. He's made a living off of being an old school player, and he's fun to watch. But it's like, Mike Brown. We talked about it earlier. Mike Brown's a great coach, but he's gotta work extra hard because he has to know he doesn't have, what Joe Mazzulla has at his disposal. So he has to, find ways to keep up with this, high paced offense, rapid 3-point shooting. It's like how can I put up 125 points without getting up 45 threes. Like,
I know. It is a tough question. When they got to DeRozan, I was like, yeah, it's great, but at the same time,
fit-wise, it's like
you're just adding another mid-range scorer. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is a mid-range scorer, and
he's a hell of a
Sabonis, they're all three of them are fucking great ball players. I gotta watch more. I actually haven't watched a Kings game
tonight.
Yet. Are they?
Kings,
10 o'clock?
I think 9. Catch the second half.
Yeah.
Kings Jazz, I believe.
Kings Jazz?
Yeah.
Shit. I mean, maybe I gotta watch that then. Because, I mean, bro, like, that's a team that is just so different than what everyone else is doing in the NBA right now. I'm excited to see what Mike Brown can do. I like Mike Brown.
Yeah.
I think he's a good coach. But it's like, who even are the good coaches at this point? I feel like I'm losing the names at this point of who the good coaches are.
It's tough because...
Is Maz a good coach?
Who?
Joey Maz?
Okay, so...
I was so anti.
I was too.
For so long,
I hated him, but it's like...
How can you deny it now?
And it's like, I think, you want to talk about psychopath. That guy's a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, he's out of his mind.
And it's like, I think the players love that.
Dude,
I think
he's a nutcase.
But I was talking about this the other day, and it's like, he's very good at coaching great players, but I don't think he would be able to elevate the level of like lower tier players.
Okay. So like bottom guys.
So like I think Ime Udoka is a perfect example. I think he will get the most out of no matter who the hell he has on the roster.
I agree. I loved Udoka.
Listen, what you do in your personal life, in my opinion, shouldn't matter. But that was just my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did. I think it must have been Wick's daughter, wife, maybe. That's just my assumption.
It was an executive something.
And it had to be Wick.
Hell yeah.
Because I just remember maybe Brad Stevens' wife, dude. I don't know. Because I remember Brad Stevens' press conference. He was in tears. I'm like, yeah, his wife got fucked.
Dude, Brad Stevens was also a good coach. Talk about a guy that got a lot out of a bad roster. Dude, there's no fucking way Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and Jonas Jerebko and Kelly Olynyk was enough to be a 1 seed, bro.
But
there's no fucking
look at what happened when he got good players.
Couldn't do it.
It's interesting because it's like there are certain coaches who can elevate, and it's an art in both ways because you have to be like certain coaches are good at elevating bad players, and other coaches are great at being able to put their great players in the right situations. Like I think Eric Spoelstra is another perfect example. Like no matter who he's got on his roster, he's going to get the most out of those guys. Steve Kerr, I don't think he would be able to coach bad players.
Yeah,
look at the 1 year the Warriors didn't have Steph and Clay.
Yeah,
they were atrocious. And granted, you're talking about 2 all-time greats.
Yeah.
But they weren't even competitive.
Yeah. And then I think there's a similar thing that happens to some guys in the playoffs, some coaches. Like you'll have a Budenholzer, who I think is a fraud. I think his championship run with the Bucks was the most fraudulent. Like, bro, you got fucking lucky. You piece of shit.
Yeah.
You are not a good coach.
Yeah.
Budenholzer's probably a good guy. He's probably a good guy, but he's a piece of shit. He's a fraudulent fraud.
Yeah.
There's no way they deserve to win a championship. Except for the fact that Giannis got it for him. And a couple injuries happened, but Giannis was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Not to be denied that year. The team was incredible.
Yeah.
They won the championship, and you just were there. You rode the coach. I could have coached that team to a championship that year.
I think that's a Frank Vogel championship as well.
Oh, my God. Frank Vogel. That fucking scrub. That guy's a scrub. He's a scrub.
Yeah.
Budenholzer is a scrub.
Yep.
These guys. You know who else is fucking... You know who's a scrub? And I love him. You know who it is. Doc Rivers.
Oh, my God.
He's a scrub.
Okay, first of all, I could talk about Doc Rivers for hours.
I love Doc, dude.
I love Doc, but look at the roster. This cat, over the last 20 years, has maybe had the best rosters collectively over any coach in basketball.
Just losing.
One.
Real shit.
How does that Celtics team win one championship?
I mean, you could say injuries. Perk got hurt. They were like, Perk got hurt. What were we supposed to do? I'm like, I don't know. Win without him? It's Perk.
You had Leon Paul on the bench.
Same thing.
He was like, listen, at the end of the day, it's the same fucking player. You had Rondo's a Hall of Famer, by the way. You had 4 Hall of Famers on one team.
Talk about a guy that's going to be a great fucking coach, man.
Unbelievable.
He's
on Doc's staff.
psycho.
Get him the fuck out. Just let Rondo be.
Let him coach. Let Rondo coach somewhere in the NBA. I know he had that like gun issue, whatever, bro. God forbid, guy got a piece on him. God forbid.
Yeah.
Guy got a piece on him. Is that a huge issue?
No.
Not in my book.
Not to me.
Yeah. Doc Rivers, Vogel, Budenholzer. These guys are fucking scrubs.
Monty Williams.
Monty Williams. You know who's on Scrub Watch? Michael Malone. He's on Scrub Watch.
He is.
Because, dude,
He is.
I'm telling you, I
swear to God, if I look at my phone and I see that, because I bet on Denver tonight, I saw the spread and I said, there's no fucking, I'm not going to look. I don't want to ruin, I'm in a good mood. I don't want to ruin, the vibe we got going. But if I look at my phone after this podcast and I see that they did not fucking cover their spread, I'm going to explode.
What was the spread?
4.5 fucking points.
Against who?
The Nets.
Oh, that's fucking tragic.
Granted,
Nets, Cam Thomas, cold-blooded killer.
I had a
team's ass though.
Unbelievably ass. He's the perfect tank machine.
I love that guy
because he's gonna get up 30 shots and he's just you're gonna boost the kid's confidence.
Oh my God, dude!
And they're gonna get Cooper Flag.
You can actually sell some tickets. I think with
he's
Cam
fun
Thomas,
to watch.
you might win 12 games. You can sell tickets with a 35 point per game tank.
They beat
Cam
Milwaukee
Thomas.
the other
I think
night.
the Vegas line. I'm not kidding. Was 32.5 points a game. I'm not joking.
My friend told me the other day that he was plus 2,200 to lead the league in scoring, and I almost bet it.
Dude, it's a great bet. He's not going to miss games. Why would he? He's getting buckets. He's getting buckets.
Shooting.
Every other team.
Let's
rest our guys down the stretch. Tatum will miss 5 games here, and he don't even like to miss games.
No.
And plus, he has to share the ball. This kid doesn't have to share the ball.
Yep.
There's no expectations. He's in the middle of Brooklyn. Yep. It's like, bro, he's just going to play a pickup, bro.
At the end,
getting
that's what he's
buckets.
doing.
He's a bucket.
I was watching a little bit of that game before I got here, and I don't know who the hell their coach is. It's some random guy. It's not Jacques Vaughn anymore.
I like Jacques Vaughn too. Who is it?
It's some dude. I genuinely don't know.
Yes,
but
he seems to
be. He seems to be getting a lot out of the kids.
Good for him.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna win 12 games.
They need that energy again. That old Nets energy. That
I want
Brooklyn.
them to get Cooper
that
Flag real
D'Lo.
Yeah.
Jared Dudley. They need that shit. They need to
Spencer
just be
Dinwiddie.
ass. I think they need to be ass and build some culture there.
I want them to get Cooper Flag real bad.
Yeah, that'd be a great fit. I think.
Because that's the thing. You start looking at the bad teams who are going to be in the running for him. Because this kid's a problem.
Oh yeah,
but
huge
but
issue.
Also, Ace Bailey's really fucking good too.
But what if it's the Spurs? See, I know we were just talking a little bit about Wemby and all that, but if you got Wemby and Cooper Flag, I don't think it fucking matters.
Well, you sell a whole lot of fucking tickets. I mean, if nothing else, you sell a lot of tickets.
But real quick, let me just wrap up my point on Michael Malone because I don't want to just leave that out to dry. I need to wrap it up. We'll bring it back to Cooper Flag in 2 seconds. Yep. This guy's on fucking fraud watch.
Yep.
Michael Malone is on fraud watch because I always felt like that guy was a fraud. And notice, I'm calling him Michael Malone out of respect. That guy is Mike Malone. Yeah. He got so mad about being called Mike Malone in one of his interviews. Bro, dude, gave a guy so much attitude about being called Mike Malone. I almost punched him through my phone. That's how angry I got about that reaction.
I wondered why, because I didn't see that interview openly.
Oh, yeah.
I wondered, because, I mean, he used to be Mike Malone. And now all of a sudden he's Michael Malone.
Yeah. Want to know why? He snapped on a reporter.
That was crazy. Because now even the announcers will call him Michael Malone.
Because everyone's scared of him. You know
Why
what?
the hell are you
Fuck
scared
that
of him?
guy. Mike
Fraud
Malone.
watch.
Hey, Mike Malone, you're a fraud. Wait, you're not a fraud yet.
Fraud watch.
You're on heavy fraud watch. If the Nuggets can't figure it out,
I
thought they had a perfect roster for a little bit there. And then last year was a weird fumble, like an odd little fumble there. I thought they were kind of a lock to make the Western Conference Finals. And then the Timberwolves were really good, but then they got smoked by the Mavs. And I'm wondering, is Mike Malone exactly who I thought he was all these years? Just a fraud that got lucky because he had this fucking 7'1", ridiculously savant-looking Serbian, that this equestrian, just this horse racing fuck, just
doesn't
dropping
even
triple
like
doubles.
basketball, by the
Doesn't
way.
Hates it.
Yeah.
He hates it.
He doesn't like
He
it.
likes to race horses, and he's a savant with the hoops.
I've never seen anything like it.
He's did he win that championship? Him and Jamal Murray, who's dropping 50 whenever it matters.
And now 15 a game. But I think this is kind of circling back to what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Those people who are doing shit that like no one wants to do. Bruce Brown and KCP and Jeff Green.
Oh yeah,
Three key pieces of that championship team gone, and they just did nothing to address it.
Yeah.
Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, and Russell Westbrook are not the answer.
But I think they could be. I love Russ. You know that.
If they didn't have Michael Malone.
If they didn't have fucking Michael Malone. Maybe if they had a good coach. Because guess what? You know what does happen with good coaches?
You win.
They do figure it out.
They figure it out.
Eric Spoelstra. They got really lucky with a guy like Gabe Vincent. They got really lucky with a guy like
Caleb Martin.
Still
have nightmares, by the way.
I'm telling you, Haywood Highsmith. Who the fuck is Drew Smith? Have you seen this Drew Smith guy they got?
He's a white kid, right?
I don't even know. No. He's like Spanish looking.
I know who you're talking
Dude,
about.
Who the fuck's this guy? Is this another one? They get another one? They always find him.
Duncan Robinson.
They're everywhere.
Duncan Robinson played D3 hoops.
He's ass. But with Spo, he's nice. Yeah. And so I think it's that thing of like being able to exalt your great players, but also be able to rise up, mold your guys. I think Peyton Watson's got silly talent. I think Christian Brown has a ton of potential, not as much as Peyton Watson. I think Peyton Watson's a legitimate talent. I think there's something there. It just needs to be unlocked. And then I think Russell Westbrook, if you played him like Aaron Gordon, could be a great player.
He's not a point guard anymore.
He's not. And then maybe you need to make a couple other moves for sure, but I think you can mold that team into a good team again. I think Mr. Michael Malone might have gotten a little lucky, and he's on fucking heavy fraud watch the next 2 seasons.
You got anyone else on fraud watch? Now I'm trying to think
You know who might be on fraud watch, and he's not even considered a good coach yet? That Darko Rajovic guy on for the Raptors.
They're not. I wouldn't even.
But I think he was talking some stuff last year. He was like, Scottie Barnes is one of the best players in the NBA. One of the best players. Then make him one. Yeah. You're a fraud.
Is Nick Nurse on fraud watch?
Ooh.
I feel like it's the jury's still out on him just because we haven't seen him with this new look crew. But I was very disappointed in their performance last year.
I think he is what he is.
Yeah.
I think he is what he is.
Just an okay coach?
Just an okay coach with some good schematics. Yeah. I think he's an okay coach with some good... I think he always was that, though. And I think... So I don't think he's a fraud. I'm trying to think of other frauds.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, watch out for Joey Maz, though.
Watch the fraud?
Because this is what happened with Mike Malone. With Mike Malone, he won a championship. It looked perfect.
Yep.
And I was like, okay. And
got bailed out by great players.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then last year they looked great. I was like, okay, here we go again. He's a great coach. Good to know. I messed up. That's on me. Hand up accountability. But now I was always out on Joey Maz. I was always out on him.
I was too. Because I didn't like there are certain... Listen, every coach has their certain tendencies. There are certain things as a coach you have to do. If another team is on a run, you call a timeout.
100%.
You stop the bleeding. You stop the bleeding.
One of the few things you can do.
You make in-game adjustments. You don't just say...
He never does.
Never. I've never seen him make an adjustment.
But he's so fucked. But when our team is this good, he kind of... can't... So is he a fraud? Dude, he won't be a fraud this year.
No.
He won't be a fraud next year.
No.
Watch out. Watch out for when he's 45 years old coaching the Utah Jazz and he can't get them to 10 wins.
Will Hardy's a good coach, by the way.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Is he on fraud watch, though, that he can't get them to win games?
But I think they're still trying to lose.
I agree.
Because they look at that roster. I mean, they are in no position to win by any means.
I had a couple guys that were to watch over there though. Keontae George is one of them.
I picked him up in fantasy.
Huge
He's a good
Keontae
player.
George guy.
Good player. Larry Markkinen, they have if they decide that they want to lose games, they got to trade him.
He has to go. He's too good.
He's too good.
And but he's not good enough to lead them to any wins. No. So you don't really need to trade him, but it just makes sense for them and for another team.
Maybe to Denver.
They need him. They need shooting violently.
Badly. Michael Porter Jr. is awful.
So sad, huh?
Because, I mean, I know you used to watch his high school mixtapes.
Oh, my God.
This guy, I mean, you want to talk about a guy who you'd watch, you'd be like, oh, my God.
I still think he's like, it's like that weird, like.
I think he's dumb.
Who's another guy? Cam Reddish. I just can't let go.
Dude, Anthony Edwards said Cam Reddish was the best player he ever played against.
I can't let that go.
I can't either.
He's on the Lakers.
You remember Amani Bates?
Can't let it go. I wrote his name down. Yeah. Went through, looked at the Cavs roster. Saw he added 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason. Never going to forget that guy. He might be a bucket. Yeah. He cooked in the G League.
Do you remember Kyrie Walker?
Ooh. I remember the name more than I remember. What did he do? Did he do anything good in the NBA?
So, obviously, you remember Julian Newman?
Oh, yeah.
He, went to head. Yeah. He went head-to-head with Julian Newman at, some, I don't know, all-star game when they were in, high school. He was a man-child.
Okay.
Freakish kid. I think he made it to a G League or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Just another guy that comes to mind.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And he was just ass.
I mean, yeah, he didn't do anything. I mean, there are certain high school guys that you watch their mixtape and you're like, holy shit, when this
Austin
guy gets
Rivers. Fire mixtape.
Yeah.
I thought, son of an NBA player. Usually when the son of the NBA player, when the dad is average, I'm like, okay, this son's going to be gross.
Yeah.
Because I think of Dell Curry, and then Wardell, Stephen Curry. And, but it doesn't really happen much. I mean, if you're the son of an NBA player, it's hard to be better than Daddy, like Gary Payton. Sabonis is one of the few that might be better than Daddy, but Arvydas was a monster.
Arvydas was filthy. He was a 30-year-old rookie, and he was still dominant.
He was a little ahead of his time, too. I think, he'd be better in today's game.
He was bigger than DeMontis.
He was a big boy.
I mean,
strong, too.
Yeah. You think of DeMontis as a wide-bodied kid. His Pops was bigger.
Pops was a man.
Pops was bigger.
That's a man's man.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best European players. I'm talking in the Euro leagues of all time.
Yeah. On to that point, I feel like you did mention something about the expansion teams. I was talking to someone the other day about this, about the just the internationalization of basketball and how the sport is so international now. Obviously, the top 10 players, probably, I don't even, off the top of my head, 6 or 7 of them are not from the U.S. Yeah. Whether that's Canada, Europe, all over the place.
I'm with you.
Do you think the NBA or basketball in general can ever one day kind of become like a soccer? How soccer is, where it's that you have a bunch of these different leagues in different areas, and then every 2 years you have maybe a U.S. Cup where it's the Canadian League plays against the U.S. League, plays against the Mexico League, or all these things. And then you can do worlds, like a World Cup, where you have all the European, all these different teams together. Not so much like the Olympics, but specifically for basketball. And I know that's way down the road, but do you see that?
Okay, I'm going to say I never actually thought about that until you just brought it up. Because I thought you were going to ask where I thought the expansion teams were going. They're going to Seattle and Vegas.
Better.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah.
Seattle needs a team.
Yeah, and Vegas is getting a team.
100%.
It's just happening.
I love Vegas.
And LeBron's going to own the team, by the way. So it's not going to happen until after
GM's going to be terrible. But
it's going to be awful. But anyways, I think it's interesting to think about because at the end of the day, soccer is not an American sport.
Mm-mm.
And we just naturally in this country have the best overall athletes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, best country in the world, not
100%.
biased. Not biased, but it's tough. I would like to say yes, 'cause that concept sounds awesome.
Yeah.
To just every 2 years, you go home and not an Olympic thing, but you represent your country but you're not saying represent your country. You're saying you take people from each league.
You represent your league more so. Yeah.
So the Euro League, the Australian League, the Chinese League, and the NBA, obviously.
Uh-huh.
That could be something cool. I want to see where the game goes because obviously the game is expanding. But everyone's goal right now is just to get to the NBA.
I know.
And in soccer, I'll openly admit, I'm not super familiar with how things work soccer-wise. So I don't know, like, what a lot of these kids, like, end goal is. Like, is it to go play for a certain club, or is it to play, like, in a certain league or something? Like,
the Prem League is like the top dog league.
Okay.
There's a bunch of them though. Bunch of leagues.
So with that being said, like, again, I don't know how it works. Does the Premier League, like, does the top team from the Premier League play like another league? Like, how does it work?
I think the guys kind of do represent their place.
Clubs?
Now that I'm thinking, maybe even their country, but I don't know necessarily how it works. It's not like in an Olympic sense.
How does the World Cup work? That's just people from their own country, right?
I believe so, but I think, but then there's like the Euros, which is like just European stuff. So by that, when I bring up those examples, I use them not so much to say like we should do the exact same thing with the NBA, but more so in a sense of like, I think the Euros is an interesting concept. It's like, obviously those are the cream of the crop. It's like, because Europeans are the best at soccer. Like, you don't really need the U.S. in there. But like over here, it's like if you did, maybe not like, the America's Cup.
What if we did like a regional thing?
Yeah.
Like, because like everyone's always, I mean, within the NBA, people always talk about like, oh, Seattle is the Mecca. Like, New York's the Mecca. Like, L.A., not Boston.
Yeah. No. But
Texas, it's like, what if you broke it down by like region? You did like a south, an east, a west, a north. Like, people played for their home area. Like that, something like that could be cool.
I think you could definitely do like west, central, northeast, southeast, and then you could do Canada.
Yep.
And then you could do
a lot of talent up in Canada.
Like the different countries, and like over in Europe, because enough of them they're gonna beef up soon.
Yep.
Bro, Sudan, bro, watch out for Sudan. Like,
no NBA players, but they were fucking good.
They were working.
Yeah.
They were working.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can build up. I think if like these leagues now, because you have so much representation, like even just think about this year's draft with all the French guys that got drafted, and like, this year's draft is kind of weak, but that's because everyone was going to watch Wemby, and they're like, oh wait, these kids are actually pretty good, and then that's going to happen with more guys, and then now we're paying attention to France.
Top two picks, both from France.
That's never happened.
No, probably will never happen again after this year.
Yeah, because they're going to be ass.
I like the upside of Alex Sarr.
Yeah.
Defensively, especially. And I think there are things you can do with him offensively. Zach Reese, I have no idea what the fuck to make of that kid. I think in his best season, he maybe averages like 11 and 6.
Yeah, I was saying.
Maybe I'm wrong.
So when I was looking at guys that I was thinking are interesting to watch this year, one of the things I was saying was Alex Sarr, because, bro, like, Alex Sarr and Bob Carrington.
Bob Carrington.
Yeah, because, bro, they've whiffed. They have been whiffing on picks pretty bad. Johnny Davis, holy fuck.
I don't want to say I don't want to say they missed on Corey Kispert, because he just is what he is. He's a good shooter.
And who's the other one though? Who's the other guy they missed on? I had him written down. High pick though. Like these.
What year was it?
I have no idea. I can't think of his name at all. I wrote down Davis.
Well, Davis was 2023.
Yeah.
Avdia was 21.
Who's 22? That's how bad he is. Whoever it is.
Did they have a high pick that year?
Probably.
Let's run through the 22 class. That was Paulo's class, right?
Was it?
Paulo,
oh my God, my brain.
Paulo, Chet.
Oh my God, Chet went after Paulo. That's actually crazy.
Who the fuck was 3?
Dude, I can't even begin to think.
Oh my God. Oh, it was Jabari Smith.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
He was 3.
And there were talks of him at 1. I remember that. And I couldn't believe it, because if you watch the kid at Auburn, he couldn't dribble a basketball.
That's a shame, dude. Rockets don't look good. He's playing center now, I think, a little bit.
I'm looking it up, because now it's going to bother me.
Look it up. Look up what the 2022
I feel like they didn't even have their pick that year.
They might not have. But it was somebody else that I was seeing that I was like, yo, that's a bad fucking pick. You can even just go to their roster, too. See if there's another guy.
Yeah.
Because they've been whiffing, bro.
Johnny Davis was 22.
Okay. Yeah, whiff.
Yeah.
Like, awful. What a whiff.
Drafted him at 10.
Like, that's insane.
It was 23. I mean, there's no way they got rid of him by now. Bilal Coulibaly? I don't hate him. I might hate him, but like
I don't. I think he's okay, but it's like, bro, like you're looking for obviously you're looking at the draft. If you're a team like the Wizards, you're not going to sign anybody. You're looking at the draft to get a generational guy. Like none of these guys are even fucking close to being even all-star level. These are whiff. So I'm thinking if Sarr and Carrington are whiffs, it's like, bro, you're really putting yourself in a hole of just bricking draft picks.
Nuggets aren't going to cover, by the way, in case you were interested.
What's
in
the
case you were
score?
thinking about that.
What's the score?
They're down 1.
Hey, bro, you never know.
There's 24 seconds left.
In the game?
Yes.
Shit. We should probably, well, how much time are we in, bro?
Yeah, we've been going for a while.
All right, yeah, we can probably stop there.
All right.
So we didn't get to the NFL.
But that's fine. I mean, we talked.
I kind of figured this would happen.
Listen, you put 2 basketball. Listen, I love football. Football season comes around, I get excited. It's like a fire in me starts going.
Scott Hansen.
I'm a basketball guy, dude.
All the way through.
Always have been, always will be. But I could have done this for another 2 hours. I got work tomorrow. I would have missed work to just keep talking.
Just keep talking hoops all day, every day. Looking forward to more basketball this season. Again, we're only a week in.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of things to know. And you'll be back on for more ball talk for sure.
Of course.
So, anyway, appreciate you being on.
Of course,
Thank you
anytime.
very much. Thank you very much for anybody that watched and got this far in. I doubt anyone's this far in, but that's okay.
Nah. I'll make my mom watch.
Yeah, the clips will be in there. Maybe my mom will watch. Hey, Mom. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you have, subscribe.
Tie game, by the way.
Tie game?
Tie game.
What if they go to overtime?
Overtime is my only hope.
Forgot about that.
Overtime is my only hope.
Forgot about that.
What happened?
Again, thank you very much.
Absolutely, yeah. Pleasure.
We'll do this again soon.
Yeah.
All right. Peace out, everybody.